Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. This is Steel Curtain Network editor Dave Schofield coming at you Tuesday night. It's 10 after 9. I was trying to let my brother finish some dinner before we could get this show rolling. But hey, if you're a Steeler fan, where else would you rather be? And with me as always, except when he's not, is my big brother Rich. Big bro, how's it going?
You know, it's been a few days, but we're going to take a minute and just breathe in that sweet smell like I got to breathe Thursday night at Acrisure Stadium. So
yes. It's been a while. It's kind of weird to think that we have a game to talk about, but at the same time, when I recorded the Mike Tomlin press conference recap today, I realized that's the first I'd done a podcast in a long time. I had the post-game show Thursday night in place of the preview after the game with Jeff and I, Brian and Daniel J. Jumped in a little bit there at the beginning before they got booted from the stadium. But I didn't have last-minute thoughts because that was already done Thursday morning. And I'm like, man, I was forgetting to turn off the music repeating and everything when I went to record. It was all kinds of crazy, but it's good to be back. Hey, I almost thought I wasn't going to be here tonight because we had an issue, same issue we had a couple years ago. I'm getting ready to take my daughter to her piano lesson. I was trying to get dinner ready that it could be in the oven while I was gone. Don't worry, I was leaving the house alone. My wife was here and everything. She can manage to take something out of the oven. That is something she can do to cook. And then all of a sudden I heard a pow, like someone shot something right outside my house, which I wouldn't have thought anything about except the fact that the electricity went out. And I'm like, oh, great. It blew a transformer. What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. Took my daughter to her piano lesson. And I'm getting messages from my wife. She's like, we're one of 2 houses that don't have power. I'm like, why is it just us? Well, here my son, he's 12 years old. He's walking up the street. He's seeing who all has power. He's checking in on his friends. He stops by to say hello to when the electric company got there. They said, hey, come check this out. And they showed him the fried squirrel that made us lose our electricity. Luckily, that made it an easy fix. And I am actually here tonight. Didn't have fried squirrel for dinner. Didn't try to go there, but really thought you had some trouble. I'm trying to tell a long enough story to let you finish your dinner there, bro.
Oh, I wasn't even trying to tell your story.
But still 88 bottle wants to know if you're undefeated now this year.
Since COVID, they went back to fans in stadium. Let's see, because the 1 year I did 4 games, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, in 10 games, including 3 preseason games, undefeated. So undefeated.
I honestly, you know what's crazy? I think I've only been to 2 games.
I know COVID. You haven't gone to many games since it's
and both of them were with you. I mean, we didn't sit together, but we were there at the same game.
Yep.
Because both of them, my son went with me, and I think Kyle was with you both times. I last year it was the Saints game. I'm trying to remember what game it was before. It was I saw that where Christopher 11 said fried squirrels are a French delicacy.
Not just a French delicacy, Christopher.
I would
Dave
call
and I
it
grew up eating fried squirrels.
Yes, we did. People were like, I
love fried squirrel.
They're like, well, there's not much meat on it. It gives you 5 pieces that are about the equivalent of a chicken wing for each of them.
Yeah.
So it's like eating 5 wings. So maybe a little bit more when you're talking about the high. Well, we don't need to talk about that anymore.
No.
But what was the game we went to and we were both at in 2021? Do you remember?
Hold on. I'm trying to remember.
I know it was in October. And I know they want, you know what? I got to look at their schedule.
Yeah.
When I see it, I'll probably remember.
I want to say it was Broncos.
It was the Broncos. I think James is that the one James Pierre had an interception at the end?
I don't.
Yeah, because it ended up being an 8-point game, and when they should have won it handily. But that was it. That was what it was. I was trying to remember the opponent. I knew they won. Sometimes they all blur together. But I won't be going again until the first Sunday in December. I will be at the Cardinals game.
Yeah.
Are you done for the season?
I'm done. Yep. But I actually had 2 games where the 2 guys that work for me were fans of the opposing team. So I sold my one set of tickets to my buddy Drew that works for me. And I found out he was pretty well behaved at the game.
Oh, okay.
The guy sitting next to me let me know, he got to talking about, yeah, I'm glad you're here. There's Jag fans here last week. I said, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And then the other person works for me, David, although he is from the state of New York, he is a longtime Arizona Cardinals fan. So I'm selling him the Cardinals.
He's going to the Cardinals game. Well, they don't have a lot to cheer for because to that one, then the third guy that works for me is going with him. So the 2 of them are going together. So David and Noah. Noah is a Steelers fan. So that's what I thought. I thought you said it was one of each that was going there. But yeah, so I was willing to make sure, in case my brother-in-law had to switch and not want to go this weekend, because he was there Thursday night as well. Yeah, Daniel, yes. That's when he was on the show the first time. Was it? Yeah. I was trying. I knew all of that. I just couldn't remember the team they were playing. But yeah, it was the Broncos. I was
sitting there remembering, it was a nice sunny day, this, that, and I was sitting there, and finally the orange on the uniforms for the Broncos popped out. Like, oh, wait.
Because my son complained that it was too hot. He didn't want to go to one that was hot again. So but he was only 10 at the time. So what do you expect? But you were there Thursday night. I was so bummed because I asked for a picture, but we all just separated because it was you and Kyle. It was our brother-in-law, Jamie, and his son, Warren. It was Bad and his son, Connor. And all you guys were together.
And his nephew.
And his nephew was there, too. Yeah. And his nephew was there, too. So I'm like, I would have loved a picture of all you guys, but oh, well.
I know. We were all kind of just excited to be there. It was nice to catch up and see. Actually, Kyle really wanted to meet Bad because he'd never actually,
Alex, that's right. He had never, because when Bad and I spooned, that was you and Alex that went to the game.
Which actually that was the last. That one was the last game I went to that the Steelers lost prior to COVID. Yes, was that game, which was the Bills game that year.
The Wildcat game that I call.
But.
Yep. So and Gavin Anthony wants to know if he'd rather go to a cold game. I'm like, yes, he would. Not too cold, but yeah, he would. I like the cold games more than the hot games. That's being a big guy. I'd rather, you can always bundle up, but when it's hot out, you can only get so naked.
Oh, let me tell you, the weather to me, the game
was
on
good
Thursday,
football weather Thursday night.
It was perfect.
Yeah,
I dressed. I had an under layer pants, then kind of like a shorts material pants on top of that, a t-shirt, sweatshirt, and my Pouncey jersey.
Yeah,
and I was warm. I was fine. No issues. Never had to break out gloves or anything like that. Some people were saying it was chilly. To me, that was perfect.
That's especially a night game. Reminds you kind of, Friday night under the lights, high school football back in the day. That's when, JJ Watt, who was at the game, he had put something out there about, wow, this is like perfect football weather. So we talked about building up the game. Let's dive into the game itself. We're long enough into the show. Let's do this because the Steelers came through, got the win. I predicted them to win. You thought I was crazy. I did it based on short week, all those other things. You in the stadium, it just something felt right. I thought there might be more points scored in this game. Vegas knows what they're talking about.
You ready for this? So we're driving in on 51. Listen to DVE to the pregame show.
Yep.
And the guys on there got talking and they got ready to make their picks. And they were both picking the Steelers. And one guy made a pick. And then he had to go back and change his pick, the score, because he had forgotten what the other guy brought up. And that was that up until the Steelers game and including the Steelers game, the Titans had scored exactly 16 points in every one of their away games.
Oh, I had that they scored. I had on StatGeek that they scored 16 points or less
Right.
in their losses and 27 points or more. They had 27, 27, and 28, I think, in their wins.
But you go look at their away games,
Yep.
they have all been 16 points.
16
so
points.
I was just like, so they were both like, if the Steelers can score more than 16, they win.
Well,
And
I
at
was
first, I
expecting.
didn't think we were going to get there.
I just thought, I'm like, is this the game where we see a little bit more offensively? And I'll be honest with you, I think we did, but it was only a little bit because you come out there, first drive, you didn't get to do your boring chant, did you?
No.
Because what did the Steelers do the first
I thought
drive?
about it later on in the game, but then it just didn't seem right.
It didn't seem, it wasn't as boring.
My thing was if the Steelers went 3 and out on their first drive, Kyle and I were going to start the boring chant.
Start the boring chant. So
and you know what? We'd have got that going. Like people,
I think you would have.
Like people were ready for that.
Yeah, but you know what? If you're going to take the ball, if you win the coin toss and take the ball, you have to do something. The Steelers did that earlier this season. I'm trying to remember who it was against, and of course they went 3 and out. And I'm like, if you're going to do that, you've got to have something planned that you think you can do something. And guess what? This time the Steelers executed, marched down the field, got the 7 points.
The biggest thing was
then they went 3 and out, 2 more drives. Go ahead.
They got in a rhythm. That was like they waste too many drives by calling plays that do not get them into rhythm.
Yeah.
When they get into rhythm, they just keep it rolling.
And I know people sometimes were like, oh, why don't they run some hurry up? I agree. But look at what the Steelers do and why they do it. They don't run a hurry up unless they're running 2-minute drill or whatever. They don't run a hurry up until after they achieve their first down. Because Coach Tomlin, his philosophy, and I can't disagree with this, is we don't want to go out there, run hurry up, and go 3 and out and give our defense 25 seconds to rest.
Yep.
Okay, so once you get a first down, and so many things even Coach Tomlin talked about in his press conference today, which we're going to reference some of that stuff as we go through the game. We're going to kind of mesh it all together. He mentioned that you finally got to see what the Steelers had in mind with how they would use Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren, because they could actually get in a rhythm during a good portion of the game. There's certain things they could do.
I liked what I was seeing then, the way they were, when you can get a sustained drive going, the way they were swapping those guys in and out and being able to do some different things, and actually even a couple of plays where they're both on the field, and it's like, wow.
You know what?
We can do those things. We just have to be consistent enough on offense to get to the opportunity.
Exactly. You have to execute and at least move the change to start in order to then really get into your next set of things that you would like to do. But you mentioned both running backs on the field at the same time. I noted that they've been on the field at the same time several times this year, with Jaylen Warren lined up, as most people now call it an H-back. I would always call it a wing, the wing back, over at the tight end, but off the line of scrimmage. And I kept seeing that, and I'm like, they keep showing that. Eventually, they're going to give him the ball out of that. And they did on that.
Yeah, they did.
That was a 3rd and short, right? And it worked. So there was just some good things there. Had some execution issues in the next 2 drives. I didn't have a problem with the play calling. I had a problem with, Kenny Pickett missed some throws, but that was about it.
Yeah, and you know what? And so part of this is going to come out, something along this line is coming out in my Worthless 2 Cents article tomorrow, is I'm stepping back on Kenny Pickett a little bit. Like I know I know where his shortcomings are. I know how he can go through a little bit of inaccuracy at times, or things like that. But right now, I think I'm done critiquing that for a little while.
Okay.
Well, it's not that I don't want to see it, but I don't need to keep hammering on it.
Yeah.
I know it. Everybody knows it. Kenny Pickett knows the things he's got to work. We know it. But I'm going to quit hammering the guy when he can keep putting W's on getting that notch in the W columns. He's done it too much. Now, I'm not wanting to see improvement on those things or working on those things, but I'm going to quit harping on them so much.
Yeah. Well, and also it goes back to the title of the show that I haven't even mentioned yet. Steelers must continue to finish strong. We're not just talking about finishing games strong. It's also finishing the season strong. But for now with Kenny Pickett, he's got to finish the game strong. There were some things I was going to bring up about him, but you know who brought them up? One Coach KT Smith in this morning's Here We Go, the Steelers show that he does with Brian Anthony Davis. That's on our audio-only platform. He brought up a lot of stuff that I had written down that I wanted to talk about tonight. I'm like, oh, Coach KT, got that one? Oh, got that one? Got that one. One of the things was he said about Kenny Pickett. All right, so you get this great Kenny Pickett in the fourth quarter. This was another thing that was brought up to Coach Tomlin in the press conference. It was Mike Pursuta asked the question and about Kenny Pickett's struggles in the first quarter and mentioned his quarterback rating and all that other stuff. And Coach Tom's like, well, what is he in the fourth quarter? And Pursuta knew it. He spouted it off like a 108 something. He's like, why aren't you asking that question? Rather than saying, what's so wrong, say, this is what's right. Why can't we get more of it? That's really the question. Yeah. But what Coach KT Smith, before he even heard this today, because the show was already out there before the press conference, is saying, you know what, though? What you ultimately want from Kenny Pickett is him to play well all 60 minutes. That's what you ultimately want. Now, if that's not what you're getting, and you had to choose between a quarterback that started weak and finished strong versus one that started strong and finished weak, you will take the first one every time. You will take the one that's finishing strong. Because just imagine if you're out there and he's a quarterback and he's doing great, they get in a big lead, then all of a sudden the team starts to come back and he just kind of folds at the end of the game. You don't want that. There were stretches as Steeler fans that you're like, this team just isn't going to get it done in the end. You felt it with Ben, but you just, like in 2019, if you were getting the ball, would you're like, can they make a play at the end? Like early, the first half of last season even. Right. If you had the opportunity, was it going to get done? That's not how it is now. Now the feeling is keep them in the game. It's not, like I say, it's not a strategy that's going to give you a postseason run. It's not. But the postseason doesn't start until January. They've got to get that success from the fourth quarter spread through the rest of the game between now and January. So that's their goal.
It's a strategy that right now is going to get us to the postseason. If this would have been the case last year, we'd have been in the postseason.
Oh, exactly. I mean, look at it.
It's hey, we're
2-6 versus 5-3.
I want to say we're patching it together good enough now that if progress is made and things get better and better, then you're going to get a chance. See, last year things got better and better, and then the Steelers didn't get a chance.
They didn't get a chance
because it wasn't good at the beginning.
They had dug too much of a hole.
Yeah. So, and I think a couple of people brought up there. I'm not giving Kenny Pickett a pass by any means, but my thing right now with him is just, I know what's wrong. The coaches know what's wrong. He knows what's wrong. Everybody knows what's wrong. I'm just going to be shutting up about it for a little bit and give him the opportunity to fix it. Now, if we get to week 16 and it looks the same way we looked in week 6,
that's a problem.
Then I have an issue. Then it's more of a, what are we doing to fix the shortcomings? Yeah. If a player's out there not trying to fix their shortcomings, they're not going to be a player for very long.
Well, and Rich, I think part of it is Steelers fans saw how they finished the season last year and like, oh yeah, but the opponents. No, forget that. You look at it after the bye week, 7-2 after the bye, 6-1 over their last 7 games. And you look at that and you were wanting, and then you saw the preseason, you were wanting Kenny Pickett to start close to where he left off last season.
Yes.
That did not happen. That did not happen.
Was frustrating.
And that's the frustrating part.
Yes.
That he didn't pick up where he left off last year or even somewhere close. It seemed like you were right back to starting over.
He did start.
They're winning.
Close.
Yeah.
He did start somewhere close.
In
And
the win
somewhere
column.
close is winning ball games, not
Yes.
losing.
Yes.
And that's the reason it's like, okay, there's hope. But like I said, hope only goes so far. Like, we can't finish if we finish the season out playing in the same kind of exact style of games we're playing now, and we make the postseason, like, who has any confidence in that going into
you
the
could
postseason?
maybe pull off one win
If you were
but
lucky.
you're not going to pull off multiple wins in that same way.
Right.
You're not.
But if we got more into the style of play that was happening towards the end of last year as we're winning games, getting ready, then you get into the, where the Steelers were last year. Nobody wanted the Steelers to get in last year.
No.
Nobody wanted to play the Steelers in the first round of the playoffs last year. Teams were happy the Steelers weren't in because they were hot.
And you got to look at things right now. People are looking at teams right now. Well, no one wants to really have to play that team. Prime example. Right now, week 9, going into week 10, the midpoint of the season. There are 18 weeks. So after week 9, before week 10, that's the midpoint. We are literally in the middle of the NFL regular season right now.
Wait, what is the term, Dave? We're at the median.
The median, yes.
Median?
The median, okay? We are the median, okay? Right now, people would say the team you don't want to play, probably the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
The way they've played the last couple weeks.
Yes.
Yeah, you don't want to have to go up against the Ravens. I mean, man, they knocked the doors off of the Seahawks and blah, blah, blah. That's one of those teams. But you want to know what? Is that still going to be the story come week 18?
Right.
Because we're constantly reminded of the 2020 Steelers that they were rolling through good teams early in that season.
Hey,
and then it kind of fell apart.
Just think about this. After week 3, what was all the talk? Mm-hmm. The talk was the team that, oh my goodness, they're awesome. No, but they're going to be tough to beat. You might as well punch their ticket. They're in the Super Bowl. And that would be the 49ers.
Oh, the 49ers for the NFC?
Well, you can say
the
a couple of them.
After they put up 70, but they can't beat a team that's over 500?
Yeah. Right. So, they really have gone through a rough patch in here. Dolphins have kind of gone through a little bit of a rough patch in here. So it's like
Bengals started with a rough patch and they're coming out of it.
Right. So it's like you got to win some games early on, but what really matters is how you finish and how you're playing as you finish.
Yeah. I mean, that's why, people in the past, I remember Lance Williams asked me in the past, it was this time of the season, I want your 2 teams for the Super Bowl. I'm like, you've got to look at with only a couple weeks left in the season to really get that. I mean, my goodness, think back when Tampa Bay won. They were not very good at this time of year. They had a late bye and never lost a game after that. That's really what it takes. Look, 2 years ago, you had 2 number 4 seeds make the Super Bowl from each conference. They were number 4 seeds because they started playing well at the right time. And they were able to carry it into the postseason. Now, does it always work that way for sure? No. But that's a really good indication. Because remember, I mean, even last year, look at how great the Miami Dolphins were to start the season. Then Tua goes down. They had a rough stretch at the end. I mean, they squeaked into the playoffs, did all right in the playoffs, almost won that game. But they did lose that one. I do remember, but it was close. But man, I mean, they looked terrible against the Jets, who were awful. Just no one wanted to win that game, which would have helped Pittsburgh make it. But that's kind of how it works. But before we take a break, I want to throw out the other Kenny Pickett number that they talked about on Coach KT Smith talked about on Here We Go. And I already had it written down. I was ready to talk about it, whether it was on this show or on Step Geek, but we're going to talk about it here. And that is 12-5. The Steelers are 12-5. If you go from week 10 last season through week 9 this season, the Steelers have played 17 games. And their record is 12-5.
Yeah.
I'll go take that one step further. Now, has he played great? No, he hasn't all the time. Has he found a way to win? Yes, Kenny Pickett has. But in games that Kenny Pickett started and finished. Started and finished. Over that stretch, the Steelers are 11-2.
Okay.
11-2 since their bye week of last year in games that Kenny Pickett started and finished. Now, you could say, well, they weren't going to win that Texans game when he got knocked out. You could say that, but I'm just saying if he started and finished. Because they lost to the Ravens last year in the second half because he didn't finish. We don't know what would have happened in that Jacksonville game if he would have been able to keep playing. And they lost to the Texans when he didn't finish that game either. So, but there was also a game in there that he didn't start either, and that was Carolina, where Trubisky played the whole game and they won that game. So 11-2 in games that he started and finished since the bye week last year, which was really when he got a chance to really take over, because he got thrown in the middle of all that, not even after the mini bye or anything like that. And that's when Kenny Pickett got to reset and really start doing stuff with that. He was just, they were trying to tread water from when he came in to the bye week. It almost seemed like. But that's an interesting stat. Now, was it all about Kenny Pickett? No, it wasn't. It was a lot of complimentary football. It was a lot of the offensive line open up holes for the run game. It was a lot of defense doing the thing. But just something about the team coming together in that regard. I mean, how much was the defense deflated when the offense didn't get that fourth down against Houston and Kenny Pickett went out hurt?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's just, it is just one of those things. So, but Kenny Pickett sees me all right. Anything else you want to talk about? You know what? Let's take our break and come back and hit some more things from this past game. Mention a couple more things from Coach Tomlin's press conference before we roll into this Packers game and kind of look ahead a little bit more for the rest of the season, since we're at the midway point. So if you're here with us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, we're not going anywhere. If you're with us on the audio side, stick around. We'll be right back after these messages. All right, Steelers fans, let's keep rolling here with the Scho Bro Show. Rich, you were there.
Yeah, I was
some
there.
more. Something else you want to bring up from this game that you were at on Thursday?
Okay, just a couple things, and it's not all totally about the players and the team. So, one, I want to know if you could see this at all on TV. The stadium wasn't full.
Oh, it wasn't?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, Thursday games are tough.
There were. That was probably the emptiest I'd ever seen the stadium. Now, does that mean there weren't still a lot of people there? Still a lot of people there.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say, you're talking about, well, let's see, if you had, what is we seat there? About 68, 69,000.
Mm-hmm.
There was probably close, I'd say 8 to 10,000 empty seats.
Okay. Well, the Steelers, the way they do it is they don't look at tickets sold. They look at turnstile numbers. They're one of the few NFL teams that do that. So I can tell you real quick.
Yeah, pull up and tell me what it was.
That was.
Now, the only reason I might be a little high with that number there
Mm-hmm.
is because there were a lot of people down on that end zone, that,
Mm-hmm.
the open-ended end zone down there. They had some heaters rolling down there. There were a lot of folks in the standing
Mm-hmm.
room.
Gotcha. Well, because they had the official,
a lot of yellow seats.
Yeah. The official was 65,969, which is lower than normal.
Lower than normal. But the other thing was the energy wasn't the same. The energy was not the same. People aren't showing a ton of enthusiasm or confidence in the team.
Well, they're not playing a style of football that can really do
Correct. That. And to me, here was the funny part. Okay, so 12 something left in the fourth quarter, and the Steelers, the big press knocks a good punt, knocks them down about the 8-9 yard line, and they bring out Renegade.
Mm-hmm.
And it still was loud, but it was probably the quietest Renegade I'd ever experienced in terms of decibels. Got done. Everybody's cheering. And on the first play, Steelers gave up what? It was like a 22 or
20-some
23
yard
yard
pass.
play.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody got quiet. Then what did they put up on the scoreboard? They're trying to, get everybody loud again. And everybody said, there were people sitting around, and I heard them saying, no, we were just loud. And we got a 20-something yard pass completion. Don't ask us to get loud again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you want us to get loud when we get loud, then do something.
Yeah.
People were
frustrated. I think they held them to a punt after that game.
They did eventually.
Yeah.
They got out close to midfield and ended up with a punt. But it was still, people were just frustrated. They're like, when we finally do give you and put in energy, this is what we get back.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's just like you can just feel it from the fans that they just don't have the same amount of confidence or excitement about this team as we have had. Now, that's not to say that the Steelers can't recover and that could come back very quickly. I think it could. But right now, the Steelers' style of play is boring.
Yeah.
It is not fun football to watch.
No.
It is not fun football to get excited about. I'm sorry. It makes, thank you for writing Knee Jerk, by the way. It makes writing that article extremely tough because it's just, you want excitement while you're writing that. You're wanting emotion, and you're just kind of, So that was the other thing I noticed at the game. Now, man, at the end of the game, that last drive when the Titans had the ball and, Levi Wallace on the very first play drops the short interception. I mean, it took 3 tries to get the interception.
Yes, it did.
Had 2 drops, and then finally Quan Alexander comes up with the interception to end the game. That got me a little nervous. Were you nervous?
Yeah. Yeah. But they had stopped them, and then you had the penalty, right?
Yep.
I watched so much football this weekend. I'm trying to remember. I watched so many games between now and when the Steelers played. It's kind of hard to remember some of these. So yeah, it was just one of those things. But hey, were you paying much attention to number 77 at right tackle?
I got to talking to the guys sitting next to us, and I was like, I said, I wouldn't say that he totally kicked butt, but I also wouldn't say that I ever noticed him messing anything up. So
other than the extra point.
Correct. Mm-hmm. That was the only time you really noticed him the whole game, which sometimes for an offensive lineman, that's what you want. Wasn't noticing because it wasn't like he was getting beat all the time or things, or missing blocks or things like that. Yeah. Just like he was doing his job.
Yeah, and like I do my article, of my opinion or their opinion, talking about the PFF scores. Yeah. I thought he did a really good job run blocking, and they gave him a very low run block score. But like on Najee's touchdown, the whole reason Najee got that 10-yard touchdown isn't just because Sam Malu came up through there, but Broderick Jones got to the next level and got the guy for Najee to finish it off. So he was getting downfield with his blocks and everything. And it was real interesting because today, Coach Tomlin, he confirmed that it was something about what Chuks Okorafor said or did at the end of the Jaguars game that got him benched. He says that it was a significant component of it, is what Coach Tomlin said. But he also said he didn't – the depth chart came out, and it said Broderick Jones at right tackle, but it also said or Chuks Okorafor. And Coach Tomlin said at the beginning of his press conference, or one of the first questions of his press conference, was that he did a nice job and he played worthy enough, played well enough to deserve another look. So to me, that sounds like we're going to see some 77 back at right tackle. And Coach Tomlin was asked, "Hey, Dan Moore, why is it Jones versus Moore? Where Jones having to go either position?" He's like, "Hey, a lot of times it's the younger guys. They're the ones that are trying to get a spot. They're the ones that got to be more versatile in order to get into the lineup." But then when he was asked specifically about Dan Moore, about left tackle versus right tackle. He said there is a significant difference between more at left tackle than at right tackle. And he didn't say there wasn't one with Jones, but from what it looks like, it didn't seem like there was. So I understand why that's what they're going at for now. Hey, if Broderick Jones, and it's so funny because back in the off season, I was asked what position he would get his first start. I said I wouldn't be shocked if it's at right tackle. Well, Dan Moore missed a game due to injury, so he was at left tackle. But he got his second start at right tackle. So kind of shows you the way.
I will go back and say one thing about him in that penalty. He won't have another one of those penalties.
They never even showed what it was really about. Could you see it there?
Yeah, we did. Cam Hayward got a hold of him afterwards. That's why he won't ever have one of those again. Okay.
Yeah.
They baited him. And they talked a lot, and they kind of did a couple. They said we're going to bait the Rook and see if we can get a penalty off of him to help us out and give us a chance to win this game. And they got him.
Mm-hmm.
He fell for it.
Yep.
And that's Cam Hayward. You could tell that's what he was telling him. Come on, Rook. They thought they could get to you. You let them get to you, and now we're going to suffer because of it.
Yeah,
you've got to be better than that.
Well, and the thing is, if you think about it, that kind of cost us. I said this in the postgame show. It kind of cost the Steelers 3 points because if they kick that ball off and they kick it deep, even if it's a fair catch or goes in the end zone, they get it to 25 versus at the 48. The Steelers held them for 4 straight plays. If that's at the 25 and the Steelers get the ball back there and they're just trying to run out the clock, running the ball, they're probably kicking a Boswell field goal at the end of that.
Right. Yes.
But based on that field position that changed that, it ended up being about a 25-yard penalty based on where they got the ball.
That's exactly what I turned to Kyle, and I said that went from being a 15-yard penalty on the kickoff, but because it's a kickoff, then add on the yards they get on the return, I said that ended up costing Steelers 25 yards.
Yeah.
And that hurts. And again, I don't expect to see Broderick Jones make that mistake again because of who took care of him when the play was over.
See, that was nothing that we saw on TV or anything of that nature. So that's really good stuff coming from there.
Cameron Hayward had him pulling him away from everything, just locked up on him, and you could see that Cam was just talking to him the whole way as he's pushing him back and then towards the sidelines. And I know he's just saying, come on, Rook, you can't let them get to you here.
You can't let them do that. So, I want to ask you one other thing for sure from this game, and that's because you texted me about it during the game, and I talked about this in the post-game show, and that is George Pickens. When he doesn't come down with that touchdown catch, I mean, how many times have we seen George Pickens, 4 or 5 feet closer to the sidelines or even more out of bounds and still get his feet in or come close? And this was just like he didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
And that was his touchdown.
Yeah.
And I said something, and you sent me a text to say he was running lazy routes that whole drive.
Yeah. Yes. One in particular really annoyed me. So the Titans were playing zone. He was coming on a shallow cross across the middle, in the middle of the zone, totally wide open. All he had to do was sit down, give Kenny the chance to throw him the ball. He could have spun it back towards the Steelers sideline and probably picked up 12 or 14 yards total. Okay. George Pickens gets into the middle, but instead of sitting down, goes from a run to a jog and jogs right up to the Titans player until they touched and then stopped. I was like, what? You're not even if you're not the intended receiver on that, you're not trying to sell anything. You're not helping your team.
Yeah.
And it was just like that whole drive. He ran a bunch of routes that you could tell he wasn't like maybe 3/4 speed at best.
Yeah.
And I was just like, is he pouting or what is going on? you know, do you not feel well? You know, who knows? But then when that happened on that touchdown, I told Kyle as soon as it happened, I said, that's going to be reviewed. I don't think his second foot was down. And it wasn't.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
But it's like and the thing was, he had plenty of room to get it down. Like, this is the guy that runs right along the sideline, is able to go up and figure out a way to get both feet to touch down in bounds. And that one, he had plenty of space to do it and just didn't see to the details.
Yeah. My thing is this. Do you think Pickens' frustrations was with the early inaccuracies of Kenny Pickett? Was it Kenny Pickett not looking his way, or was he frustrated with almost every time he was getting double teamed by the Titans?
Yes.
Or a little bit of everything.
I think it was a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
I think it was a little bit of everything.
See, without Deontay Johnson, they had no choice but to try to still throw it to Pickens, even when he's double covered.
Right, but why in the world?
Deontay's always open.
If they're gonna double team George Pickens, why would you not throw it to Deontay Johnson?
Yeah.
Oh, and it was so nice to actually be there and see Deontay Johnson finally get in the end zone.
Oh yes,
I loved his reaction. It was like, finally.
Yes. Yep. That was a good one. That good for him. I think this could really maybe bolster something with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Because if you think about it, Week 9 was their bye last year. Week 9 was their mini bye this year.
Right.
And they came out in the second half of the season. I already feel like they started to have some things come together during Week 9. The offensive line, which leads to a run game, which leads to a more successful and efficient passing game as the game went on.
I just hope that George Pickens, when it comes to some of this, back to finish some stuff up with him, is that if he's going to draw the double teams, what he has to hope for is that when he draws the double teams, is that Deontay Johnson feasts.
Yes.
Because if Deontay Johnson feasts, that means you're going to get to the point where teams don't know who to double team.
Yep.
And then it gets to the point where it's just look for the double team, find the other guy, and there's plenty of footballs for both of them.
Only, zero coverage on Pickens. Boom. That's when you're going to get that opportunity. But what he has to do is when he gets those opportunities, he's got to make the most of them.
Yes.
Was it this game? I know it was the game before as well, where he just didn't, one of those crazy sideline catches, and he just quite didn't get it in. That I understand. But the touchdown, that wasn't it. So.
Yeah, that was just like that was, and look, I don't care what you say, George Pickens, he would probably never do it to the media or let us as fans know, but trust me, I'm sure he sat down with some of his teammates and said, sorry, guys, that was not my best effort. I should have had that.
Yep.
So, I've been watching, and I know there's some folks out there that are like, oh, is Pickens too much of a diva? Do we get rid of him? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, man, you show me a good wide receiver in this league that isn't at least half diva.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Coach Tomlin was saying that before.
That's what makes them good.
Here, I'm trying to, let's see if I could even, I had it written down here from it with Coach Tomlin. Asked him about Pickens, because he said, that's about his frustration. And he's like, he expresses his frustrations all the time. This isn't anything new, but he's like, I want a guy who wants the ball. Then name me a wide receiver that doesn't want the ball. That's what Coach Tomlin, expects from someone playing that position, and especially a young guy, and trying to get it all figured out.
Everybody, when it comes to that, this is where people forget. Don't forget, okay? Coach Tomlin probably understands wide receivers better than any other position because that was the position Coach Tomlin played. Coach Tomlin was a wide receiver. Everybody thinks, he was a defensive. Yes, he's an extremely good defensive coach. But as a player, He was a wide receiver.
Yeah.
He wanted the ball. He understands that those guys want the ball.
Yes. So he can understand that as well as anyone. Anything I don't want to go on if there's anything else from the game you want to mention first, or if
No,
ready
I got to everything. I got to
close.
everything I wanted to get to, so I'm good.
Right. All right. So I'm glad you were there. I'm kind of bummed you're not it anymore with your excellent record. So can we expect the 7-2 that the Steelers got last year? That's pretty ambitious, but it's also not out of the question. Rather than focus on what are they going to go over the last 9 games, I want to see them playing better.
Yeah.
I want to see them playing better. And if you lose to a good team while playing better, and it just doesn't happen to where you end up with more points when it hits zeros, that's a little bit more excusable. But I mean, look at it. The Steelers haven't scored – the most points they've scored in a loss this year is 10. Don't give me that. Yeah. Don't give me that. Steelers they need to start putting more points on the board. And if they're not putting more points on the board, then they need to be playing like some of the games that they had last year, which some people might think are a little bit boring, but limited possession football, meaning they're possessing the football so long. Think of last year, the second half last year. They had super long drives, hold the ball. They'd hold the ball for 8 minutes and get a field goal. Some crazy stuff like that.
9-minute, 45-second touchdown drives.
Yes, things like that. If you're playing low possession ball, you're obviously not going to have as many points scored. So it's more about drive efficiency if that ends up being the case. But I'm not saying that has to be the case for the Steelers moving forward. I'm just saying that would be maybe the one thing that would be excusable if they're not putting up more points on the board. This team, they're 5-3, and it's still like hopeful that they can get somewhere. And yet they're 5-3, that they'll get to a point of playing better football.
What's funny is if they keep playing the same style and kind of football they've been playing, I could still see them get at least 5 more wins. So really 10 is achievable. If they could get it figured out, 12 is very achievable.
Yeah.
Well, if you win 12 games, you're going to the playoffs.
Yeah.
No question. I don't see a 12-win team not making it.
Oh, no way. I mean,
so, it really
with 7, I don't see an 11-team win.
Right.
Chances are 10 gets you there.
10 could get you there.
Yeah.
So, I think the Steelers' chances of 10 wins are fairly high. Now, what they would get 10 or beyond will come down to what kind of improvements can they continue to make as they make this journey.
Yeah. So this is about finishing strong. The Steelers need to win the games they're supposed to win. That's what they did last year. If you look at last year, I don't have the point spreads in front of me, but if you look at them last year, there are 2 losses down the stretch where to the Bengals, which I'm pretty sure they were underdogs at home, and they lost to the Ravens at home, which I think they might have been underdogs in that game as well. I'm not sure. And those are division games, but they took care of business in the ones that they were supposed to win. They started off beating the Saints. They took care of the Colts, the Falcons. And that's the same kind of thing that the Steelers need to do. Starting with this week.
Yes.
They need to take care of business against the Packers.
They need to take care of their business. This Green Bay Packers team is not all that great.
Yeah.
The Steelers
now, their defense has been doing a nice job because I saw something today that since week 5, the team that's allowing the fewest points is the Ravens, the team per game. Then the team that's allowing the next fewest points is a tie between the Steelers and the Packers.
Right.
This is across the NFL. So that's been going for them. And they beat the Rams because the Rams had a guy at quarterback that now isn't even on their team anymore. He got released today.
Right.
So they're coming off a win. The Steelers are coming off the mini bye, the 10 days rest. That's good for them now. In a few weeks, we're going to talk about that being bad because I don't know if people realize this. When the Steelers have to go to Cincinnati, they're playing Cincinnati coming off of a mini bye, which royally sucks that they have to go to Cincinnati after they have some rest there. But that's a couple weeks down the road's problem. First things first, getting it done against the Packers. So I think the over-under with this one is something like 36. The one for the Titans game, man, the Steelers were favored by 3. They won by 4. The over-under was 37, and the total was 36. It's almost like the odds makers know what they're doing now. So that's you want those things, as long as they're close to it, that shows that they're getting it right. So, Rich, anything you want to say about this game before you get to your score?
Other than what Steeler Chick brought up, update on Minka.
They said
on Minka is that he is not on IR,
and they're going to look at him this week to see if he could possibly practice. They haven't ruled him out, but they haven't said, "Oh, he'll be back and be fine." Coach Thomas said the same thing kind of about Montravis Adams, who left the game.
Yeah.
So that's all you got there. So, all right. So what else do you want to say about this game? Are you ready to get to your score?
Oh, I'm ready. Let's go to scores.
Okay. So remember, just a quick reminder, because there's people, I saw score float out there. No. We will bring up everybody's score, but you've got to wait for me to actually put it in the live chat before you do. I don't give my score because I'll give it in the preview Thursday night. I did give it last week because there was no preview. But Rich, how do you see this shaping up? Oh, and for those of you getting your scores ready, if you don't put a team, we assume you mean Steelers. How do you see this one shaping up, and what do you have for your score?
I'm going as the Steelers, same style of game they've been into. But this time I'm going to show a little more confidence in the Steelers. And I don't know that it's that I have more confidence in the Steelers. I think I just have a little less confidence in the offense of the Packers. Mm-hmm. I just think their offenses, they are in worse shape offensively than the Steelers are even. So I'm going to go Steelers 21, Packers 14.
21-14, going with all TDs. Well, or maybe some field goals and 2-point conversions.
Actually, I'm leaning more towards some field goals and 2-point conversions. Yes.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I just put it out there for everyone that you can go ahead and put your scores in there, and we will bring those up. Wow, people there, man. Everyone gets ready.
Everybody's trying to beat Thomas Riley to it, and they did.
Yeah, there you go. So we got George going with 23-17 Steelers. We've got Afton going out there 23-20 good guys. We've got Sean Manahan going 23-13 Steelers.
Sean, that was almost my score. That was almost what I said.
Because I'll ask you this as the scores are coming in. This one, to me, feels a lot more of a must-win than some of the other games. This isn't a game that you can – if you drop a game like this, then you've got to win one that people really aren't expecting you to win.
Yeah, that's
in order to make up for it. If you want to make the most of your opportunities, this is one you need, Steelers. Kathy Ford, she has 27-23, so we got the mother-daughter combo both in there. They both have a 23 in there, but they're not for the same team. So that's 27-23 Steelers. Steel Dog 88's got 27-17 Steelers. Here you go. Thomas Riley, Steelers 24, Packers 24. He's going for the tie again. Steelers Freak says 17-10. That's the same score as the Ravens game. Says Steelers grit yet again. Okay. Christopher 11, he's saying it's going to be a breakout week. 30-11 Steelers. Man, boy, wouldn't that feel good, Rich?
Would feel good, but I don't necessarily see it coming yet. So
I'm not saying that the Steelers can't get to that kind of game. I knew they weren't ready for that kind of game several weeks ago. They're getting closer to that now. That could maybe be something that we see the first Sunday in December. But they've got to get there between now and then, because this is a team that we're dealing with a growth issue again, just like last year. Okay. Paul Schirf, sorry, that hadn't come up on my screen yet. I was trying to remember. Okay. He has 23-20 Steelers. Steelers Pittsburgh 20-17 Steelers. Joseph Donovan 26-13 Steelers. Thomas Potts says 13-10 Packers. Gavin Anthony says 28-17 Steelers. Steeler Chick 46. Ooh, sorry, Steelers Chick, that I got all tongue-tied there. 21-17 Steelers. Mr. Stiller fan has 24-16 Steelers. State of the Steelers, Daniel J. He's got 26-13 Steelers. J and 1 says 24-20 Steelers. Here you go. Mark Tobin, 28-0 Steelers. Guaranteed victory. I don't like to hear the word guaranteed victory because that's when a team loses. Okay, I don't want to guarantee this just because, the Packers defense, I haven't broke down the numbers yet, so I look forward to doing that for Stat Geek to see really where they match up and see how that goes. Wes, he already said before he doesn't believe anymore. He's got 31-13 Green Bay. Keep going with that, Wes. You didn't believe last week and they won, so I'm okay with you not believing. Maybe that's your strategy. I love it. John Walter says 24-21 Steelers. Jeremiah Yoder says
that was just for you, Jeremiah.
27-11 Steelers. Randy Wagner agrees that it's a must win. Crow 74. Now, see, technically, Crow 74, 27-13 Steelers. Didn't want to jip you that one. Technically, the only real must win is when you're eliminated if you lose. Or makes it where you don't control your own destiny. That's technically what I always look at as a must win. But this is one of those that is as close to it's the kind of game they really, really need to win.
I don't want to call it a must win. What I like to call it is a can't lose. You can't lose this game.
You summed it up perfectly. This is one you can't lose. You got to find a way to get this one done. 10 days rest. Come on, Steelers. Brent Howell says 23-13 Steelers. Denver Ash says 27-13 Steelers. Thomas, we already had his. Tyler W, 28-16, finally a dominant win. It would be nice to have that. Mr. Wires, I'm going to say, 23-16 Pitt. Although that's the college team. I think he means Pittsburgh. He was trying to be quick. World Traveler 70 says 23-17 Packers. Sean Mahoney says 31-17 Steelers. He says, and that the offense finally puts up 30 plus. But does the offense put it up if there's maybe a defensive touchdown? No, but oh well. Foot's big, right? 20-13 Steelers. Did Randy Wagner have one before? I can't remember. Because he said, can the Steelers score over 19 points? Steelers 19-17. Sherry Richards, she's believing. She's got 31-16 blowout coming. Okay. Jennifer's even more. 51-0 Steelers. Can't stand the Packers. That's funny. Oh, you found the next one. Thank you. Gotcha. Big C, 19-13 Steelers. Do we have another one? Oh, yeah, that's something I forgot to say. The big announcement today at 3:00. I actually predicted this, and that way it made the article a bit easier for me to publish while I was at the meat market, was that the Steelers are wearing their throwback block uniforms for this game, which I like. They won with them last year on Christmas Eve, so hopefully we can see that again. John Stevens says 20-10 Packers. You might want to change that after hearing about the block uniforms. And then Kevin Colbert Sr. Sorry, I said Kevin. I know Kelvin. It's Kelvin Colbert Sr. 35-17 Steelers.
He gets you every time.
He gets me almost. But I don't remember hearing a score from Kelvin for a while. So that snuck up on me.
Good to see you back up there, Kelvin.
Yep. So, all right. Looks like that's our scores. I'm excited about this one. I like that it's at home. I like that it's on the short week. I don't want this to be a get-right game for the Packers. This needs to be a get-right game for the Steelers. Okay? You've got to keep doing it. The offensive line's starting to roll. Keep rolling with that offensive line. Keep rolling with that running game. And defense, it's a struggling offense. So much so, Coach Tom didn't even really. He mentioned the quarterback's name, but didn't even talk about him during his press conference. That was a first for a long time. Steelers defense needs to go out there and get the job done.
Yes,
so,
they do. So,
yep. So for that, make sure you're checking out steelcurtainnetwork.com. You got your worthless 2 cents coming out tomorrow, right, Rich?
yes, sir.
I usually do my article about the players mentioned, but we didn't get a transcript. So if we finally get one, it'll be a little bit later in the day when that finally comes out. But make sure you're checking it out there. We appreciate the support there. And with all the other podcasts, if you're only watching on YouTube, you're missing probably 2/3 or more of the content. Tomorrow morning, you get another Let's Ride with Jeff Hartman. If you've never listened to our audio stuff, just go search for Steelers or Steel Curtain Network, or like go to Apple Podcast. Check out Let's Ride tomorrow morning with Jeff. That would be a great one to start with if you've never listened to just to the audio shows. But we have the same lineup coming at you. We have a Steel City Insider tomorrow afternoon. That's with Jim Wexel and Jeremy Ritz. Make sure you check that one out. Rich, let's hear some final thoughts.
All right. First final thought. Russ, glad to see you made it into the live
chat.
Hey,
Russ made it in at the end.
He got in there late, but he made it in. Good to see you, Russ. Hey, I keep wanting to stay down on this team, but it's hard for me to continue to stay down on them if we can keep chalking up W's, So, yeah. I mean, to me, then that's what's next. Go into this Sunday and let's chalk up another notch under the W column. It's there. It's doable. As I said, I think it was Randy Wagner. We were driving him nuts. He said, because we were like, must win versus can't lose. We were driving, sending him Section 8 there. But but to me, it's more of a, hey, Steelers, don't lose this game.
Yeah,
this isn't a game you should be losing, so don't lose it.
Yes, you've got 2 AFC North games on the road after this one. Who cares? That's not even on your mind. This is all that's on your mind.
Yeah,
sorry.
Get it done this week. So I expect them to. Going to be back home this week, not in stadium, sitting on my couch. 1:00 when God intended football to be played.
That's right.
Cheering on the Steelers. But is the potential there that I'm going to be sitting here like, man, I'm trying to write this knee-jerk reaction article and this is a boring game? Yes, that chance is really going to be there, but you know what? I'm going to do it anyway. And it gets difficult at times, but I'll try for you all as the fans to get some emotion into it and not just my grumbly Pittsburgh dad emotion, because the Steelers are messing things up. But yeah, sorry, that's going to come out some because it always does. But I do have to say I am looking forward to it. We're halfway through. I can't believe we're halfway through football season already. It goes so quick. It goes so quick, but I enjoy it. And I'm going to be out there on Sunday, and then of course the next Sunday and the next Sunday. Can't wait. Can't wait.